What's up, guys? It's Peter Voogd. Welcome to the YEL 2.0 podcast, where we help you live a life and a business on your terms. And as you know, you've been subscribed. You know I don't have a lot of guests. We're very selective with who we have on the podcast. And I only want people that I feel I personally respect, but people that are game changers, not just in their industry, but in the world, and really are making a massive difference. So today we have Parker Walbeck. I'm excited to have him. Filmmaker, cinematographer, director, built a huge online following, close to 620,000 subscribers on YouTube, and somebody who went from a great high-paying job to leaving that job because there was a cap to creating a six-figure income within around 8 months and then 7 figures 2 years later. So there's a lot of knowledge that we can gain from Parker. So I'm excited to have you, man.
Hey, Peter. Great to be here, and thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course, man. So I want to talk about the journey, because there's a lot of people right now in jobs they don't like. And maybe they do enjoy them, but they still feel like there's a cap and someone else controls their income. Do you remember the breakthrough or the buildup or the final straw where you're like, I can't do this anymore. I have to move on?
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of people are in that position in life where, for me, I was making 80, 90 grand a year. So it was a great job, no complaints there. But ultimately, I had a vision for my life, and I wanted to achieve financial independence, financial freedom. And 80 to 90 grand a year wasn't going to cut that for me, especially because I wanted kids, I wanted a family. That was going to get me by, but I didn't want to get by. I wanted to excel. I wanted to become free from money. And in order to become free from money, I had to make a lot of it a lot quicker, right? And so, I took a ton of ideas to my boss at the time and said, hey, I want to build some revenue sources. I want to do this for your business. I want to make more money. I want to progress as a human financially in my skill set. I need to progress to feel fulfilled in my job. And I'm just not there right now. I'm kind of in the grind doing the same thing over and over for the past few years. And I want to take that ceiling away from me and just kind of bust through it. And we didn't see on the same eye to eye. He didn't have a lot of potential for me to grow in that business. And so ultimately I said, well, if I'm going to, execute the vision I have for my life, it's not going to be here. It's comfortable. It's nice. It's good. It's fine. But is it going to get me to that next level? It's not. And so ultimately, and that's actually when I discovered you, Peter, and you were, I tell people this all the time is I picked up your podcast, started listening to some of the things you were teaching, and it was like scripture to my brain. It was just like, it made so much sense. You were speaking, verbalizing the things that I've been thinking over the years and telling me what I've been feeling. And I think there's a lot of people who are in that boat who have that entrepreneurial spirit, but are stuck working for somebody else. And even if it's a good job or a great job, if it's for somebody else, it's still for somebody else. And I realized in that moment, listening to your podcast and being frustrated at my current job, that I was never fully going to be satisfied until I was working for myself and I could bust through that ceiling and reach a higher potential.
So that final straw was really sharing your vision of helping that person's company. And they were kind of like, nah, we're good. That was like, I'm done. Yeah. I got to do my own. That probably gave you extra motivation.
Right. That's essentially it. In fact, what I ended up building on my own, I proposed to him and said, hey, I want to build a school, an education, an online course that we can utilize your following, because he had a big following at the time. I said, let's use your following to build some new sources of revenue. One that I'd be passionate about is building an online course. So here's how it's going to lay out. Here's the percentages I want to make off of it. Here's the structure. Here's how I'll grow. Here's your parts you'll play. And he just kind of turned it down flat. And that was kind of the last straw where it's like, well, shoot, if I can't build things I'm passionate about, if I can't, get in return for the amount of work I put in instead of just trading time for money, then I'm going to try this out on my own.
So let's fast forward. So you make the decision. Now, I appreciate the kind words for my book. And that's the number one reason I created the book, is because to get people unstuck and to give them an actual roadmap. So did you actually follow it to where you put like a date in your schedule where you were going to be done? What was the next step when you made the decision to leave?
It's funny because the month I quit was the month I got married. And so it was like double stressed. It's like, okay, now you have someone to provide for, and now you're going to be unemployed. But that was kind of the goal. It was like, I told my fiance at the time, and I said, I'm not happy where I'm at. I can make good money and it'll make us a good living, but ultimately I won't be happy. I'll let you make the decision with me since we're in this together now. Either I'll keep doing it or we can start broke and start over once we get married, and I can try and find something I actually love. And she was 100% on board and said, you know what, I'd rather live in a box and be happy than have a lot of money and have you miserable at your job. So she was on board for us. So that was the goal. It was the month we got married. Let's quit this and start fresh. So I think it was 2 weeks before we got married. I quit my job. We got married, went on a honeymoon, and as soon as I came back, hit the grind.
What's it mean to you to have someone like that by your side, though? Someone that fully supports you and someone that's like, I don't care. I trust you fully. I don't care if we're broke for a while. I'm happy. What does that mean to you to have someone like that? That's amazing. And I have a wife as well the same way.
Left working at that other job had I not had her support, had I not had her, period. If I was still single, I might have just stayed there. But having her be that confident in me gave me that extra push to actually go through with it, and knowing that she was going to support me through thick and thin, through poor, through riches, you know. So definitely having somebody who supports you, who sees your vision, who shares your vision is super crucial.
So step one, you make the decision, you get fed up, your back's against the wall. You're like, I want to be happy and I want to build a business on my terms that doesn't just trade time for money. So now you have to go through this clarity time in your life where you're like, what do I do next? What do I love? How can I scale? What are my values? So let's kind of walk through, if we could give a roadmap on what you did to go from excited but confused to actually confident with clarity and certainty of what you're going to create. Did you have certain questions you asked? Did you already have an idea? What was that process like for you?
For me, the biggest thing and what I tell people to do that are in the same situation is you need to have an extremely strong why. Okay, I wanted to be financially free. I wanted to be wealthy. I wanted to progress infinitely. But why? To what end did I not want to be tied down to having to work a 9 to 5? And for me, it was the financial freedom. I wanted to be able to not need money so that when I felt like it, I could have the lifestyle to go to my kids' soccer games. I could go on vacation at will with my family. I could spend more time with my family. I could, do stuff like this where I'm spending more time mentoring and helping other people, helping other businesses. Like, my passions were much farther than money. And so I had to set a strong why, have a strong vision in my life to say, okay, I'm going to build my own business. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Here's all my goals. But why do I want to accomplish all of that? And until I feel like people have a strong why, when the going gets rough, and it's going to get rough when you're trying to build your own business, if you don't have a strong why behind what you're doing every day, you're going to quit. You're going to give up. You're going to give in. And so for me, it was, having that strong why that could push me through those hard months, those hard weeks, those hard days where I didn't feel like working. I doubted myself. I didn't have the confidence. And I'd think back to that why and say, okay, this is why I'm doing it. Now I feel more motivated today just to bust it out and get the work done I need to do to fulfill my short-term goals to ultimately get to my vision. So, you teach it a ton. It's clarity. It's figuring out not only what you want to do, your passion, meaning what you're good at, but also why you want to do it. What's the higher purpose? I had an employee at one point a couple of years ago who said his goal, his ideal lifestyle was to travel the world. And I said, okay, that's a good goal, but why do you want to travel the world? To what end? What's the end point of traveling the world? Because you're going to start traveling the world. You're going to start having fun. You're going to start making money. But at a certain point, you're going to get sick of it, or it's going to get hard. What's going to keep you doing it? What's the why behind these goals? And he didn't really have one. And so he had to sit down and kind of come up with a vision for his life and figure out, okay, what's the longer term why, the vision of my life that doing these things is going to actually make me feel fulfilled and happy in life.
Love it. And it's digging deep too, because what's important to you about becoming successful? What's your why? And then you ask, why is that important to you? And then you ask, why is that important to you? And it's like 5, 6, 7 levels deep. But I want to hit on something that I think is monumental if understood in terms of building a 6 and 7 figure business for everyone watching. You had a vision. You had a supportive partner. You had a strong why. I bet you money you didn't have exact steps, but
No.
because your why was so strong, you figured it out versus
Yes.
like, I need to know everything before I do anything. If you have to know every step before you leave your job, good luck in this new economy. You know what I mean? I just want you to share that you didn't have the steps, but you figured them out along the way. That's a huge understanding.
And obviously, you know, I game planned, I strategized an exit strategy for how to quit my job and start a new one. But man, there's so many obstacles you can't be aware of, you can't know. I had an idea. I look back on my original game plan of quitting and what I ended up actually building, completely different.
For sure.
Completely different. And so, yeah, I mean, plan as much as you can and prepare. But the biggest thing, like you said, you just got to start doing it. You got to start acting and start working hard, working smart, and just getting in the grind. And the biggest thing that I find people, it's a principle you teach a lot too, but once you've found some clarity and you have your vision, the biggest thing that I think keeps people from actually succeeding and moving forward is just being confident in themselves. Mm-hmm. And I hit on that in a minute, and just a second ago, with my wife helping me feel confident, listening to your podcast helping me feel confidence. But ultimately, if you're not confident in yourself and just kind of fake it till you actually make it, you're going to quit. You're going to give up. There was probably, when I was building my course, my full-time filmmaker course, that is now my biggest source of revenue, there was probably 5 or 6 times during that 8 or 9 months where I literally almost threw in the towel because I lacked confidence. I said, I don't know if I'm good enough to be teaching. Who am I to be teaching what I'm about to teach? Who am I to think I can start my own business? Who am I? I mean, those are the thoughts that everyone's going to have as they start building their own thing, doing their own thing. And I think it's 90% of people that can't get past that stumbling block of just self-doubt that keeps them from even trying to succeed in the first place. And as a generally self-confident person, I was, you know, able to push through that and find some confidence enough to actually at least attempt succeeding. And I actually ended up succeeding. But, you know, I think that's the biggest thing that a lot of people lack. I see it in my full-time filmmaker course with the people I'm teaching how to do videography is, you know, when I first bought my first camera, I felt so stupid. Like I'm another mom with her camera trying to figure out, you know, how to post some fun Instagram photos. And I just felt dumb and I didn't feel any confidence in what I was doing. And that's how a lot of people feel when they enter a new market or start a new skill or a new business. And you just got to get rid of that self-doubt, dig deep, fake it till you make it, and have some confidence in yourself.
What are some rituals that you had? Maybe you didn't even realize them at the time, but now looking back, because one thing that I have found for me and for a lot of people that we inspire is you have to have a ritual to get you back on track. If you're not confident, if you're stressed out, if you're not in the zone, what do you do in that moment to get yourself back in the zone? Do you remember thinking back, Parker, when you weren't confident? What did you do in that moment? Do you remember?
I think the biggest thing that I do anytime, it's not just unconfidence, but it's also, you talk about overwhelm, you talk about procrastination. Like when any of these stumbling blocks that you run into, what is the biggest thing that gets me over them is just work. Just putting my head back down. Putting my head back down and saying, all right, stop thinking, stop watching YouTube videos, stop scrolling through Instagram, comparing myself to everybody else. Get back to work, focus on progressing personally, focus on becoming a better version of yourself. You hit on this a lot. Don't compare yourself to other people, which is where you start to self-doubt, is where you start to feel overwhelmed about the world and everything that everyone else is doing. Quit focusing on everyone else. Quit comparing yourself to everyone else. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, right? And as you do that, you say, okay, this is where I was yesterday. I can become a better version of myself today. That's doable. That's something I can do. I can't control the people. I can't control how good somebody else is, but I can control the fact that I can become better than I was yesterday. And to me, that's the biggest way to keep progressing, to keep, you know, pushing forward every time you hit those stumbling blocks.
I think it's hard to explain. I like seeing your progress over the years. And I like hearing your story too, because you have been someone that takes what I've taught and it's worked for me and you're using it, but I see the progression. Here's my mindset when I was newer, Parker. Oh man, stress. I got to take a break. I'm overwhelmed. I got to take a break. I got to take a week off. That is society's normal.
Right.
Go take a break. And then I had a mentor that actually was successful, was a millionaire. And he said, you have to understand, most stress is lack of results. You need to work harder and then work more strategically. Don't take breaks. And my mindset totally shifted. And the fact that you just said that when you're hitting the 7-figure mark and on your way to 8 figures, it's crazy. People don't understand that. You have to realize, guys, that everyone has the moment where you stop comparing yourself to other people and you realize when you're overwhelmed, you just got to continue to master your craft. And you're doing that now. I actually you're not as active on Instagram as a lot of people. I can tell from the outside looking in, you finally figured out how to be in your own world. You know yourself. You're not comparing yourself. If you don't post for a week, you're like, whatever. You're so focused on A, mastering your craft, B, your filmmaking course, and C, your customers and creating, you don't care about that. Talk about the feeling you have of finally figuring out how to be in your own world, how to not compare yourself, and how to just focus on what you do best. What does it feel like now that you figure that out?
Oh man, it's liberating. I have people ask me, because a lot of people know that I had an awesome job with this other guy. And then years later, they come to me and say, you know, how does it feel having worked for him and now having built your own business and working for yourself? And I just say it's 100 to 1. I mean, just the level of satisfaction I get every day going into work. I mean, I literally, you can ask my wife, I wake up at sometimes 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and I can't go back to sleep because I'm excited to work. Like, how many people can say that about their jobs? You know, but that's the feeling I get, is I'm so excited to go out and add value to people's lives, because I know that what I'm doing is making a difference and helping other people succeed in their businesses. And just, I mean, I don't really know how to describe it other than it's just liberating. It just feels amazing knowing that I'm in control of my own life because I took the uncomfortable steps to get in control of my life.
Was it worth the risk, the frustration, the sleepless nights, the discouragement, the lack of clarity? Was it worth all that to be where you are now?
Oh yeah, 100%. I will say that it was a lot harder than I thought it would be. Now, I never envisioned, I mean, your book is 6 months to 6 figures, and that was kind of the goal. I never in a million years thought I'd be able to make 7 figures. Like, that was for the rich millionaires. Those terms and phrases and people were so distant, I couldn't connect to, I couldn't even fathom it. But having just, again, one step at a time, one day of work at a time, becoming a better version of myself than I was yesterday, every single day, you start to grow and develop and realize, oh man, like, I am capable of so much. And that was probably the coolest feeling for me, was realizing that the sky is literally the limit. We as human beings can do literally anything that we're willing to put in the work and effort to do. But what that also means is there is a lot of work and effort to do. And so that was something that I didn't realize going in, is 1, how much potential I actually had, and 2, how much work it would take to reach that potential. And, you know, quitting my job and starting my own thing, you know, I started out working normal hours, 10 hours a day. And pretty soon I started working 12, 14, 16 hours a day. I was basically running my own video production company to pay the bills, while also building this new online course, Full-Time Filmmaker, in the evening. So I'd work from like 7 to 5 in my video production company to pay the bills. And then I'd go eat dinner with the wife. And then from 6 to 2 in the morning, I'd go and build my online course. So it was literally, 16, 18-hour days sometimes for a few months in order for me to build what I was passionate about and build this side business while also working, some jobs to pay the bills. And I just don't think people realize that is the amount of work it takes to get to the next level, to become somebody who is capable of running their own business / making a 7-figure income. And so it was a lot of hard work, but yes, it was worth it.
What's the alternative when you think about it? You're going to put the work in, your time's going to pass anyways. And you have to understand, if you can put in I was willing to put in the 70, 80, 90, 100-hour weeks to eventually be on my terms and work when I want. So you have that mentality. It's that vision you had even before you left your company, where it's like, I'm willing and I have a supportive partner who understands, I'm willing to work all day, have dinner for an hour and work till 2 a.m., then get up at 5 or 6 because I know where it's going. So I love that you shared that. What are some differences, Parker, in doing 6 figures versus 7? If you think back, because a lot of people in our academy, a lot of people that we impact, they can get to 6 figures. 6 figures is like hustle, grind, grit. 7 figures is like strategy, scalability, building a team, things like that. So if you could narrow down like the biggest difference in what you did mentality-wise and skill-wise to build a 6-figure business, then 2 years later to go to 7, do you remember, what are some of those things?
I would say the number one biggest thing that allowed me to go from a 6 to 7-figure income was just my mindset. That was literally the biggest thing. Like, that seems like a no-brainer. Like, oh yeah, just think you can make 7 figures and that's all you have to do. Okay. That's it. You have to tell yourself that you're going to or can make 7 figures. And then your brain starts thinking differently and starts looking for opportunities, like you said, to scale it past that. But there was times when I launched my business, my product, Full-Time Filmmaker, we did about $100,000 in the first week when I launched it. And that was obviously more money than I ever made in a year, let alone in a week. And in that week, after that week, I was overwhelmed and thought, man, that is so much money, $100,000 in a week. And I kind of took my foot off the brake for a few months and just said, man, I'm happy. That's awesome. And then just kind of went back to making, 5, 10 grand a month, and back to my normal mindset of this is good enough. This is good money. And it wasn't until like 6 months later that I'm like, well, let's see if we can scale this a little bit. Let's start running some Facebook ads. Let's start looking into new areas where we could improve the product, where we can improve our sales funnel, and it was literally just changing the mindset of, okay, I'm not content with where I'm at. I want to continue to progress. Let's change our mindset and look for ways to do that. And literally within, 4 or 5 months, I went from making 10 grand a month to 50 to 100 grand a month. And part of beyond the mindset, probably the biggest thing I did to, it actually doubled my revenue within an amount of 2 or 3 months, was bringing on another talented employee that could take off. You talk about this a lot. High value activities, low value activities. It's like, okay, I've changed my mindset. I know what I'm capable of. I want to reach it. Now let's analyze the business and see which activities are taking my time that aren't worth my time, that are low value activities. And let's do the things that I'm best at, that are worth the most money, that are going to scale the business the fastest, that are my high value on those, and hire somebody else to do all my lower value activities. And I would say delegation is the biggest thing that literally doubled the revenue of my business overnight. I was almost doing 7 figures, probably 50 to 80 grand a month, about a year and a half into running the business. And then by hiring on a talented employee I could delegate all these lower value activities off to, and he could do them well and sustain them while I worked on my business instead of in my business, and started doing the highest value activities that was going to allow me to scale a lot quicker. And literally within 2 or 3 months, we were all of a sudden doing 200 $250,000 months, simply because I was doing my highest value activities, and those high value activities were bringing in a lot more money than when I was doing customer service and typing emails. And so when I stopped doing those and started creating more content for my YouTube channel and started focusing on scaling ad campaigns, which were the high value activities, things just blew up. And it's such a simple thing, like, okay, yeah, hire someone to do that and then focus on the important things. But so few people will do that because they hold so tight to their chest their entire business, and they become bottlenecked in their ability to grow because they're unwilling to delegate anything, because they have to have control over every little piece of it. And that's fine. And that was who I worked for, was somebody who wanted to have control of all of it. And I told him, I can take all these low value activities off your hands so you can scale this. And he couldn't see the vision. And so that was a huge learning opportunity for me to say, I will never do that. As soon as I built my business to a certain point where I can't focus on just the high value stuff, I'm going to dish it off, delegate it to somebody else so that I can, do the highest value activities.
You said something too. You said it's simple, but most people don't do it. It's simple, but not easy. If it was easy, it wouldn't be worth much and everyone would be doing it and it wouldn't
Right.
have that much scalability and upside attached to it. So people need to understand that. So Filmmakers course, you have how many members?
We have almost 8,000 members to Full-Time Filmmaker.
Here's what I want to ask, and this could even be to your academy too. What separates the top 1%? So the 80 best that you have, or from your experience, from looking at their stuff, you do a lot of give back in the community where you will help them individually. You'll give them jobs. You do a lot of extra mile stuff, which is obviously why they stay with you and you attract more people. Right. But if you could simplify and give a message to maybe all of them, what is the difference between the 1% and everybody else that maybe doesn't make it full time, doesn't get the 6 figures, doesn't reach the impact they want to make? What's that difference?
The 1% of filmmakers or the 1% of just entrepreneurs in general?
Total. What separates the 1% of filmmakers? And then another question, 1% of entrepreneurs. But I'm guessing it might be the same answer. What separates the 1% that you've seen crush it versus everybody else?
Maybe. Yeah, I think it's probably one of the same. I haven't dabbled in every kind of business, but I would assume that, a lot of these principles cross over to multiple industries. But I take, for example, the kid that I hired, my first employee that he wasn't my first. I had several that came and went and didn't really impress me. But the one that stayed was actually one of my full-time filmmaker students. And he approached me at one of my shoots and said, "Hey, I want to get into this. I'd love to work for you." So I said, "Oh, well, send me your reel. Let me see what you can do." He sent it to me, sent me his work. It was like a 3 out of 10, like really not that good. And I just emailed him back and said, "Hey, keep it up, man. Not really there yet, but keep working hard and you'll get there someday." Didn't think much of it, thinking, yeah, he wasn't it. And literally 3 months later, 3 months, he sends me another email with a new video, and he had been just busting his butt for those 3 months to not just to, some people would take that and say, "Oh, I'm not going to make it. I'm not good enough." But he took it as a challenge, and instead of kind of just staying in that, like you said, 90% of people who aren't ever really breaking out.
They dabble,
right. They procrastinate. They watch a lot of YouTube videos. Which is some of my employees who have come and gone. They procrastinated. They spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos. They'd take 2 weeks to do an edit that should take 2 days. And this kid broke out and said, "No, I'm going to, like I talk about, I'm going to improve myself every single day. And I'm going to get to the place that I need to get in order to impress this guy to work for him." And I teach this a lot, but you talk about relationships. You talk about your circle of influence, surrounding yourself with successful people. And that's what this kid wanted to do. He attempted and failed. And so he did the principle that I teach in the course, that he took took my course, and then 3 months later applied our approach and said, "I can add value to you in these ways." And then obviously improved his skill set to a point where he was more valuable to me. And then this time he blew my mind. In those 3 months, he had built his own filmmaking business. He had started his own successful Instagram page, his own wedding videography business. He had built himself up enough to quit his own job to be able to run his own video production company. And that alone, I was like, man, this kid can work. And just by seeing how much he had progressed in such a little time, it wasn't that he was better at filmmaking than anybody else. It was that he was such a harder worker and willing to learn and grow so much faster than anybody else. That impressed me so much that I had to have him on my team. And he's absolutely come through with everything that he did with his own business growing it initially. When I hired him on, he's just helped me scale my business infinitely. And so I kind of take him as an example because he did. I mean, I have hundreds of people who've wanted to work for me. Yeah, I get emailed every single day. "Hey, can I intern? Can I do this?" It's like, why did I hire that one kid out of all these hundreds? What did he do that the hundreds of others don't do? Well, one, he showed me value. He added value. And that's one of the biggest approaches that I think people get wrong is I think one of the best ways to grow quickly is to have mentors, to learn from those who've been successful in the field that you want to be successful in. And But when you approach those people and try and build connections and relationships with those people, add value first. Don't ask for value. Don't say, hey, I need you to mentor me. I need you to give me feedback. I need you. No. Switch the roles and say, hey, I noticed you have these holes in your business. I've done my research and I've noticed that this is where I could add value to what you're doing. Please allow me to do that for free and show you how much I can help you. And that's exactly what he did. And now he's reaping the benefits. As I always say, when you add value first, the value is always returned tenfold. So I guess in short, my answer is, what do the 1% do? Well, they connect to the right people. They add value to those people. They work harder. They work smarter. There's a full list of things they do. But
what you're saying is they become irreplaceable because you said it. You said, I felt like I had to hire him or I was losing out. There's few people, and the same thing happens to me, Parker, where I get hundreds of people and few stand out. Few are focused on never-ending improvement and few are irreplaceable. And if you can show someone that you're irreplaceable and you have the mentality of, I need this person, you're going to go very far. So I love that you shared that as well. So let's end with this. I appreciate your time and the value you've given. I think this is going to be an astronomical interview as far as people's mindset and thinking different and finally making that jump. But what do you tell someone that's still on the fence? What do you tell a young entrepreneur that wants to reach greatness, that wants to build a 6- and 7-figure business, that wants a life on their terms, but something's still holding them back? Maybe they had a rough upbringing. Maybe they don't have guidance. What do you tell that person to get them off the fence to realize the importance of living on your terms?
One of my favorite phrases, man, fake it till you make it. Nobody ever feels confident in what they're about to do. And the only way to gain a little bit of confidence is to act. I always say that in order to gain more confidence, you have to take opportunities that you're not comfortable doing. I've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, Hyundai, LG. And when these companies approach me to do these video content for them, I don't feel, I've never worked with them. I haven't worked with companies that big. So what do? Do you turn it down and say, no, I've never worked with a company that big. Sorry, guys, I'm not ready for this yet. It's like, well, how do you become ready for it? By just taking every single opportunity you get to get there, right? And so every opportunity that comes in a young entrepreneur's way, you have to take it. Every opportunity you have to grow, you have to take it. I promise you're not going to feel ready, but the only way you're going to gain confidence is by acting on those opportunities. And as you act on an opportunity, you gain a little bit of confidence. You faked it, and then you made it. And then a bigger opportunity is going to come, and you're not going to feel confident, but you got to take it. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You got to do what you don't want to do because you're not ready, you're not comfortable. You take that opportunity, you act, you gain a little more confidence. And that's how you slowly start, one, building your own confidence, but two, building a successful business of your own.
Love it, man. And what happens when you do that is you go from, this is what my mentality, what happened is you go from, I cannot believe, for me, I'm a speaker too, I can't believe they hired me to speak, to, of course they did. Who the heck else would they hire? That's the mentality, right? So for you, it's like, I can't believe they hired me to do this video and paid me this much money. But now you're like, of course they hired me. That's the mentality shift when you get uncomfortable and when you get results, when you don't feel like you're ready. So on the other side of fear, on the other side of being uncomfortable is massive confidence and mastering your craft. And when you master your craft, you're in the upper echelon, man. You're in the top 2% because no one else wants to master their craft. They want to dabble. So,
but how do you master your craft? You can't master it unless you take all those opportunities where you weren't a master yet, right? Mm-hmm. So I love what you said. It's perfect.
100%, man. I love it. Well, I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for being a world-class dude and for leading by example, for creating a dynamic and powerful community. And I think me and you are going to work on some stuff in the future, man. I love what you're about and how much impact you're making. So I'm excited to see what you could do, man. Thanks for
I appreciate you having me on.
For sure, man. I'm excited to build our relationship. We'll talk soon. Hey, what's up guys? If you like this video, I think you'll really enjoy these videos right here. And also please make sure you subscribe, hit the subscribe button below. We have a lot of amazing content coming out. See you guys soon.